And what do I do? Okay, I also dropped the Rhino. Probably, yeah, to sell it. Now, my EMP is ready again. Let's see how the opponent reacts to it. He does level his Phoenixes, alright. I do go for anti-air on these marksmen, which also helps with their range a bunch. At least as long as they have a viable air target, though the opponent ranges or adds more range to the Phoenixes by using elite marksmen. Honestly, into a round where Fortress is dropped, that's quite brave. Now my opponent apparently is going for carry arcs, and so am I. Dropping an additional carry arc on both sides and one in the middle. He did in fact put the Rhino here. But that is 6 levels of Mustangs worth in damage, attacking a level 6 Rhino, in addition to 2 arc lights and a bunch of crawlers, so that does not bode well. My forces here are taken out pretty swiftly because there is nothing covering them. But now the reinforcements have arrived. Meanwhile, on this side, it's looking a lot more promising, at least for the moment. The chaff is mostly dead, but I guess there is nothing going... Yeah, there's nothing left here, because that chaff survived. Things are not looking particularly amazing right now. Should be able to get this dead? No, I am not. The tower degradation reduces my damage beyond the point where the Phoenix, where my units were able to out DPS the heal of the Scorpion. Unfortunate, but unfortunately also what happened. Another EMP in theory, and laser sights. Barrier probably also worth a thought, but there's also pretty high rank, well, mid-ranking Scorpions on the board, and a lot of damage from Phoenixes and marksmen. And carry arc lights, so how long would a barrier effectively last? I guess it's still a good amount of value for 100. Or for 150, I guess. We both do pick the range here. I've thrown it on my highest level carry arc light. What does my opponent end up doing? I think he also dropped it on one of his carry arcs. He does go for another Rhino. Interesting. And apparently he wants to pull my forces here, but that Rhino is going to die extremely swiftly. I leveled these, so they are now technically 8 levels of Mustangs shooting. I love how quickly they can scale when they have an item. Like Mustangs without items suck. Or at least without levels and items. No, without levels or items, they suck. Level 1 Mustangs are trash. Level 2 Mustangs and Mustangs with items start really wrecking things. And I go for anti-air here as well. Okay. I'm not sure if I would have made that choice in retrospect. Well, we'll see what happens. So he didn't sell that Rhino. I totally would have expected that. I guess it's now moving. But that is still a ton of DPS. I think I cleaned it up much more quickly than before. At least this side has not yet completely been obliterated. Anyhow, the Mustangs roll in and start taking the chaff out. Crawlers are extremely well split, so they start taking a long time for these arc lights to get killed. Mustangs are basically all dead, but that Scorpion has almost remained untouched. EMP on the Phoenix is scary though. This side has completely been obliterated. The marksman got obliterated as well. And EMP keeps this carry arc light from accomplishing its goal of at least getting this arc light. Would have been a good amount of damage. Next, Overlords a choice. War Factory a choice. Hackers potentially as well. But I wouldn't really like if you drop this in the reinforcement round. And I have a level 6 Rhino in the flank. I don't really like my chances. I do drop some steel balls here simply to clean this up more quickly. And I do end up going for Mecdiv. This is supposed to be a bit of a cover. But, oh, I didn't recognize that the EMP was on the Arclights. I thought it was on the Phoenixes. I think in the actual game I never even noticed that there was EMP on the board. I do get a surprising amount of tunnel vision sometimes. Because while it's pretty good against other types of units, once there's EMP on arc lights, these steel balls should be accomplishing nothing with MechDiv. I never really realized that. Anyway, my opponent is dropping a Vulcan straight up the middle with Incendiary Bomb in order to clean all of this chaff. I do range my Scorpions and drop some more chaff. And what is new on my opponent's board? The Overlords are new. Now that was a very, very, very unfortunate Vulcan spawning in the middle of 5 levels of Scorpion damage. Overlords, I don't really think that they are going to accomplish too much. Like, look, they are evaporating in the face of these Mustangs. The Steel Balls not really splitting all that much once the arc lights hit them. Overall, it is looking pretty good this round, though. The marksmen are starting to hit the opponent's phoenixes. The arc lights are still attacking. And this one outranges the opponent's arc lights. At the end of the day, it is pretty freaking close. But the EMP on the arc lights still wins the round for my opponent. I should maybe be thinking about putting EMP on my carry arcs as well. It is pretty good. But then again, you still need to always worry about getting something for anti-air. Anyway, Amcore for both of us, it has been nerfed somewhat recently-ish. Although by the time that this episode comes out, or these episodes, it's probably going to be a 2-part again. It's probably like 2 weeks old or 3 weeks old. The Amcore now only 60% health and damage, which I still think is better than just heavy armor and stuff. My opponent apparently wants to throw down more of the annoying fire here. So he drops another Vulcan on this side. He does buy out, get temp range. He definitely wants to finish it, if possible, with the next round. I'm not sure if I feel any good about giving attack to these rhinos. They are just dead against these steel balls. Now I decide to pull some of these units and have them move away. And I did purchase some sticky oil, which should hopefully help me burn my opponent's side of the board here. And I think this is an additional crawler. Ah yeah, and I go for subterranean and level the crawlers so that they can actually, you know, go through fire and live at least one arc light hit. Or live to block at least one arc light hit. My upgrades also come out, but I don't rapid resupply like my opponent. Yeah, I definitely would have sold this. It's just free XP. And the steel balls are a very efficient method to cleaning it up. Now, these are no longer as vulnerable to fire as one might suspect. These are level 5. They can stay inside the fire for a couple of seconds. Steel balls here, not splitting, unfortunately, but doing their job of absorbing at least a couple of hits. Mustangs starting to... No, they can't take out that Phoenix. Unfortunate. However, the tower here fell. And that means my forces move in, and there's a lot of forces left on the side that didn't have an additional Vulcan. I definitely think the Vulcans are not pulling their weight here. I talked about this before, but one of the advantages of having Elite Specialist is that you can spawn you can just spawn crawlers that can go through a somewhat decent-ish amount of fire, especially if you gave them extra speed, and, you know, subterranean is an absolute must in this case. I go for the haste module. I mean, it's 40% extra damage, not for free, but for $50. And there is probably another carry arc light who will enjoy doing that extra damage. Not that there is all that much that actually requires a lot of damage like these Vulcans. But once they are dead, there's only the Scorpions left, and everything else can be cleaned up with just normal attacks. I do tech into anti-air, because there's always the threat of additional overlords, and massing overlords, it would not be the first time that I lost to this. My opponent now also unlocks the oil and drops it in the middle. I do unlock some additional marksmen, and drop them around the board so that they can help with the phoenixes. Although I guess the arclights might just do that on their own, but I guess it's good to have them just in case. So how long will this rhino survive? 3 seconds? A steel balls here could in theory level, but it's not really worth it. All this is a massive XP bomb for the units here, especially these level 6 Mustangs. I also have a missile interceptor here. I don't even know how good or bad it's faring. Okay, it's not faring pretty good. You would need 2, I guess, to intercept all of that, because it wasn't all that much that landed, but it just has huge AoE. Anyway, the board is kind of developing in this fight, and I think it's going pretty much in my favor, because I still have some chaff left, but my opponent has none. Yeah, this is looking like it's the final round. Maybe. Yeah, it is the final round. Like, with that Scorpion, that's 300 on its own. And at the end of the day, I think that was a very good fight. What I didn't highlight was the fact that my opponent did a mistake that might have cost him the round. I think it would have not mattered, all that much at least. But if he had dropped that ever so slightly further to the front, it would have actually ignited. But the fact that these crawlers were on the line literally means that the oil here, despite having landed, never got ignited for the entire duration of the fight. So I do want to also give a couple of words on what I would have done in place of my opponent. I think that these Vulcans were not pulling their weight. They were just getting killed for free. Because the Arclights, they were just wrecking everything. These Rhinos should have been sold ages ago. Because what purpose do they serve? All they do is give massive amounts of XP to my opponent, to me, and they serve the purpose of distracting my forces for a couple of seconds, and then they give massive amounts of massive amounts of XP to these Mustangs and the carry Arclights here. That would not have been worth it in any way, shape, or form to keep them here. It would have been a lot of money to sell them over a couple of rounds. So I definitely think that my opponent, if he had invested more into carry Arclights, he would have beaten me. I recently... Did I already cast that? I think I did. I recently lost to Skip, because his Arclights with EMP were just a very good counter to my carry Arclights. His carry Arclights with EMP to my carry Arclights with anti-air, which means that I lost. And yeah, basically I think that's the primary mistakes. The Vulcans that were not doing enough, and the Rhinos that were doing basically nothing and only feeding. I guess if you can get your Mustangs to be high enough level, there comes a point where they don't need to worry about fire all that much. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching and listening, and until next time.